that love first place in your life. You know, keep that love. If you love him, then you can love your fellow man. That's the two commandments, you know. If you love him, you won't have no problem loving the people around you, you know. But you first got to put your whole heart in him and love him first, you know, because he loved you. When we look at Philippians over here, the peace of a Christian life, and the presence of Christ in your life, we're going to kind of look at that. You know, being a Christian, you can have peace in turmoil. Everything don't have to be rosy. Everything don't have to go your way every morning. You get up there, you know, sun shining in on you, and you stretching, big breakfast on the table, and you feel like a million. And, you don't have to have all these things if you really trust and depend and lean on God. You know, He'll supply your needs according to His riches and glory. So we're going to kind of look at Paul, and he's a good example of how we sometimes take God for granted, and we bump him out of first place with something and replace him with something that don't last long. And he will let you know that. Therefore, but I rejoice in the Lord greatly that now at the last you can care for me, that flourish again, wherein you are also, where you also careful, but you lack an opportunity. Paul is talking to the Philippian people. He also in 1 Corinthians, the 9th chapter, 11 through 18, Paul, he wouldn't take money from the Corinthian people. He wouldn't take money when he first went out on his journey to establish the churches. He wouldn't take money because he didn't want people to think he was just out preaching for money. He was going around just preaching for money. He wouldn't accept money, but he also went to say that it is the church's responsibility to take care of the minister of the one that preaches word. But he just didn't take it, but it is the responsibility of the church to take care of the one that speaks his word, because shepherd is worthy of his hire, you know. He let them know that but he just didn't accept it. But now he's talking to the Philippian people because he was in need, and we saw Sunday school lesson this morning, talking about needs, and he was in need. He was, matter of fact, he was in prison at the time. He was telling them about these things, and they come to his rescue while he was in prison, you know. And you know, God knows your needs, and he will supply your needs. But you got to have him at heart. You got to, as we saw over in Proverbs, you got to trust him. You got to love him. You got to put him first in your life, and he will supply that need. Even though Paul was down and out, but he still was a man of integrity. He's a man, even where we're going to see in this chapter, we're going to see how contentment. Sometimes we can be so easy to get blown out of shape, you know, about any little thing that come in our lives, you know. But Paul is telling us how to be content. And the only way you can be content, you got to have Christ in your life. With Christ in your life, he can make a way out of no way. He can make peace out of turmoil. But you got to have him in your life, and you got to keep him in your life and put him first in your life. Not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I'm in, therewith to be content. Can we do that? Can we say, as Paul is, whatever my situation is, I'm content? No, Johnson came. I ain't talking about y'all now. I'm talking about Johnson. I'm preaching to me. I'm glad you're hearing it, but I'm preaching to me. Can I learn to be content in whatever situation I get? I wake up with a little headache, you know. I got to worry about it. Oh, Lord, I got it, you know. But then you look around and see people that don't have but a half a head, you know. Why can't you be? Why I got to have everything? Why all my wants got to be met? You know, why can't I be content in my situation? But most of the time, I find myself grumbling, mumbling, and moaning and groaning. Why? Because I don't have this, I don't have that. I forget about what I got, what he blessed me, what he give me. I forget all about that. But I want something somebody else got, something I don't need. So let us learn, like Paul, kind of be content with what he gives you. And learn to use what he gives us. We learn to use what he gives us, and we use it wisely, then we can be content in whatever situation we find ourselves in, like Paul said. I know both how to be abased, and I know how to be abound. even where in all things I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to be abound and to suffer need. You know, you're going to suffer need sometimes. You know, when we got everything we need, when we what we call sitting on top of the world, you know, everything's all right. We're looking down at everybody else, you know, everything's all right. As long as I'm up there and everybody else is down there, you know. But you got to learn to enjoy that while you're up there. Yeah, he put you up there, learn to enjoy. But when that bubble busting you, don't say that, John. But you got to learn to be happy there too, you know. Be at peace there. You can also be at peace, you know. You're going to suffer some needs. You're not going through here on flower beds of ease. Everybody's going to have trials. Everybody's going to have tribulation. Everybody's going to have a burden to bear. Everybody's going to suffer some needs, you know. So Paul's not the only one. You're not the only one. I'm not the only one. And Christ, he suffered himself. And so you know, if he suffered, what about you and I? So let's learn to love and trust God and be content with some of the situations we find ourselves in. Be content, you know. Don't just say, well, Lord, if you get me out of this, you get me out of this circumstance, and you get me out of I'll be content tomorrow morning. I'm going to do better in the future. I know it's my mistake, you know. But this all comes to your priority. Where your priorities lie? Who is in first place in your life? What is you here on earth to do? What purpose did he put you here for? What am I here to do? Am I here to satisfy myself? Am I here to do all the things I want to do and none of the things you want me to do? And you're going to continue to bless me and give me the things that I need, things that I want, and things that my little heart desires. He said if you delight yourself in him, he would give you the desires of your heart. Yeah. But if you got a union with him, you know, the heart's not going to desire certain things. Certain things your heart's not going to desire. But whatever that need or whatever that desire is, if you delight yourself in him, he will give you those. And when you delight yourself in him, that means you have trusted him. You have embedded him in your heart. He's first in your life, and you follow his direction, his command. That's when you delight yourself in him. That's when he will give you the desires of your heart. So we got to keep that in mind too. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. Where are we drawing our strength from? Who are we allowing for our strength? Is it yourself? Do we look in our own eyes that, well, look what I've done? Even when we accomplish a little task, you know, when we come up out of the muck and mire a little bit, when we get on a solid rock, and we kind of look back and say, look where I come from. We don't say, look where he brought me from. Look back where I come from. I finally made it over. You ain't made it over. He brought you over. So sometimes we forget about those things. And we can do all things through Christ who strengthens. But those things got to be within his realm. It's got to be within his will. If it's in his will, you can do those things. Why? Because he's going to strengthen you. And the way he strengthens you is where your priorities lie. Wherever your he's not going to make you no superhuman being to do the thing. You're not going to come out there flying like a Superman. You know, God is under me, but he will supply whatever you need. But you got to have the priority. You got to know where your priorities are. You got to know what image you want in. You know, we sometimes want things that we don't need. Well, most of the time we want things that we don't really need. And a lot of things that we got we don't need. But he does that out of love, you know. And if we love him, he loves us. He loves us first. So he gives us these things. Why? Because he loves us so. And he wants us to have these things. But he also wants us to put him first in our lives. So if we learn to do that, then we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. And then Paul went on to say, nonetheless, I have well done that you did communicate with my affliction. See, Paul was in prison, and they seen his need. Even though they met his needs, he was suffering in prison. In those days in prison, you know, you had to kind of fend for yourself a little bit, you know. It wasn't like the prison today. Now you had television on the wall and everything, all these other things. You had shackles on your feet. And you got something when somebody sent you something. You know, in this Philippian church, they'd always been helpful to Paul, and Paul was grateful for it. because of their help, you know. He said, you helped me because I was in need. And he was in need, and so that's when God come in. When you're in need, he's there. But just for show off and just to say that I know the God that I serve, he's going to do this, he's going to do that, and I serve a God will do this, you know. He's the God of all things. And you can do all things through him who strengthens you. If we rely on where our strength comes from. Sometimes we forget where our strength comes from. And we try to do all things because we think we're Superman. We think we're invincible, you know, and nothing can stop us, you know. We can do all things because God said we can do all things. There's also a condition to know all things that you can do. He knows your capability, you know your mind, you know your thoughts, you know why you want to do these things, and he knows how far he's going to let you go and how far and when he's going to stop you. So let's be sober-minded when we think about these things. And let's, we read in the response to reading that, we saw that let's don't think we're so much.
All right.
We start thinking we're so much, that's when we really see who we really are.
Amen.
When you think you're this and think you're that, but God knows your heart.
That's right.
And man can see through you. So that's don't us think we're so much, you know, because we're just deceiving ourselves. But trust in the Lord with all your heart. And lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. Thank you all.